welcome back to GTD. It is the Thursday Picks episode. If you've missed any of the other content from this week, go check that out. That'll be on the YouTube from early in the week, whether it is NASCAR, football, baseball, or F1, where we yell at each other about Lando Norris for about 15 minutes. So if you're into that, you can check that out. But it's time for football picks. Some great matchups this week. Mainly in the SEC. That's where a lot of the ranked matchups are this week. And let's start with the big one.
Because it means more.
Yes, the rivalry game. This is always a classic game. Number 11 Alabama taking on number 14 LSU in Death Valley. By the way, these rankings are still AP because we're recording this before the playoff rankings come out. So if they sound weird, that's why. But Alabama at LSU in Death Valley. Who you got?
The Texas A&M game sold me on this.
I was about to say Texas A&M's not playing.
But the A&M against LSU game sold me on this. I'm taking Alabama. I don't think LSU is going to be able to stop the run game of Milroe and just all of Alabama's running backs at this point. I think the last game we saw Alabama play against Missouri, they really bought into the run game, and that's what we said needed to happen for them to start winning, and they did. They bought in the run game. They've had a week off to prepare for this game. I think they're really going to buy into the run game, whether it's Milroe or just their running back core, and I think they're going to run right over LSU, and I think they beat them.
I'm taking LSU purely because this is in Death Valley. I think if this game was at Bryant-Denny, I take Alabama, but night game in Death Valley versus Alabama, LSU with the high-powered offense as they usually have, I think I'm taking the Tigers in this one. And I think Kyron Lacey has a big day versus Alabama. They've struggled with better receivers this year a lot of the time. Like Junior Sherrill for Vandy had a good day. Georgia's receiving core got open a lot, but then they dropped the ball a good bit. Kyron Lacey's not going to drop the ball. So
how do you think Alabama's defense holds up against LSU?
I think they might struggle a little bit. I do agree with you. I think LSU will struggle to contain the run game of Milroe, especially. I think they struggle with quarterbacks.
I smell a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
Not an ACC high-scoring game, but an SEC high-scoring game.
I completely agree. I think you see something like maybe a 40 to 35-ish final score here.
I agree. I think it's somewhere in the 30s.
Yeah, so I'm taking LSU. Death Valley Night's always a difficult place to play, but this is going to be a game I've definitely tuned into. I am super excited for it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, really, with an LSU night game, you talk about it, but under Saban, you weren't really worried about it because they've been there before, they've done it.
Other than the Jaden Daniels loss.
Right. But wait, Jaden Daniels didn't beat Alabama?
Yeah, he did. In Death Valley, Jaden Daniels beat Alabama.
Oh, 2 years ago. That's right. Yeah. Last year, I was like, wait. Well, last year they played.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah. But under Kalen DeBoer, there's been talks about the penalties. They're a little more kind of disciplined.
And that'll get you with the noise at LSU.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. So it's interesting to see how this Alabama team is going to react. A lot of these guys were under Saban for a little bit. Most of these guys were under Saban for a little bit, so they still have that. But they were young, and a lot of them didn't really play a whole lot. So I'm very interested to see how this team's going to respond to a night game in Death Valley because a lot of the games have been at home, a lot of their bigger games. So, yes, very interesting. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be closer to the next game we're going to talk about. Number 2, Georgia, at number 16, Ole Miss in Oxford. I'm going Georgia. I know Ole Miss played really well against Arkansas, and Beck has kind of struggled, especially in the first half, but just struggled overall with his interception numbers. I think his interception numbers, maybe he throws one, but I think he kind of takes a step forward this weekend and has a better weekend, a Carson Beck weekend that we've seen. I don't think Ole Miss's defense is going to be able to, I don't think Ole Miss's defense is going to be able to contain Georgia all that well. And I have, this game comes to whose defense do I have more faith in, Georgia or Ole Miss? Georgia.
I also have more faith in the Georgia defense. I kind of hate that Ole Miss went and beat up Arkansas just in time for this game because I would have had no doubt in my mind whatsoever about Georgia until that, and now I'm kind of thinking, man, is Ole Miss good enough? This Ole Miss team has forced 7 interceptions this season, so I think there is a chance they pick off Carson Beck a couple times. I'd especially look out for Trey Amos. He has 3 on the year. He's been a great corner for the Rebels, and this feels like a game where we both go in and we both take Georgia, and then Ole Miss shows up and randomly pulls a win out of nowhere. But
which could happen.
I'm still taking Georgia because I think the Georgia defensive line is athletic enough to make it a long day for Jackson Dart.
I agree. I think in games where Jackson Dart has been pressured heavily, he has not played
as well.
Right. And I think that's the difference. So, yeah. And you agree as well. So we're both in agreement with Georgia, Ole Miss. Close game, but Georgia's defense gives them the edge over Carson Beck versus Jackson Dart because typically we're looking at quarterbacks when we come to this. But this game, I mean, Jackson Dart, Carson Beck, both great talents. You're looking at the defenses. The next up, Colorado, Texas Tech. Texas Tech with a big win over Iowa State, still unranked. Well, unranked in the AP poll. Who knows what they'll do in the CFP poll? Probably still not ranked. But Colorado playing good ball recently, up and up and up to second place in the Big 12 over Kansas State, second to BYU. So this feels like to some a trap game. Like, oh, is Colorado going to go in and is Texas Tech going to beat them, carry the momentum they had against Iowa State and beat Colorado and kind of like dethrone them or whatever? Who do you have?
Give me Texas Tech. I'm changing my mind at the last minute here. I think that Taj Brooks has a big day for the Red Raiders. He's over 1,000 yards in the season, has 10 touchdowns. Baron Morton has been a very reliable quarterback, has 19 touchdowns and only 5 picks, and I think 2 of them came in the Iowa State game in a very rainy, messy game. So they get Colorado at home. I think that's going to be a big benefit for them. This is a team that I think is still kind of upset over the missed opportunity when they played Baylor a couple weeks ago, and that kind of knocked them out of – because I think they had a playoff shot before that Baylor game. But now I don't think they're still in that, so they're just looking to play spoiler, and what better way to do it than knocking off a Colorado team that is red hot right now. So give me the Red Raiders.
I'm taking primetime. I think Colorado still gets it done. I know they had the big win. I think it is a little bit of a trap game. I think it's closer than people might think. But I am going to take Colorado. Iowa State, I mean, they've kind of I just don't trust their defense enough. I will say Colorado will probably need to show a little bit of the I think Colorado's passing game beats them. I don't think they need the running game in this game. I think Colorado will need the running game at some point in their schedule for the rest of the year, especially if they make the Big 12 conference title game. They have not had a run game all year, apart from scrambling.
I think we'd agree this is high scoring, though.
Right, 100%. But I think Colorado does outrace them and scores them. I think Colorado beats them by double digits. I think so.
I can see it happening. I just like the upside of Texas Tech for this game.
Texas Tech's defense is not stellar against the pass.
And Colorado's isn't either.
True, but they just this game may come down to interception turnovers, which I don't think there's going to be a whole lot because these teams don't really have a lot of turnovers in the air. I'll say if there's a team that has throws 2 or 3 picks, they're going to lose.
Shedeur Sanders has a tendency to play a bit more fast and loose than Baron Morton, so 100%. I think that could get Colorado in trouble. But we'll have to see. If you're not doing anything when that game's on, I would definitely tune in. Should be fun. Then the final game we're picking this week.
The fun game.
Yes, the vibes game is
Beamer Ball versus Pimp Ball.
Yes, South Carolina versus number 24 Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia. And I went back and forth on this. I think that Pavia has struggled a bit under pressure this season, and with South Carolina's edge rushers.
Vandy struggled against Auburn.
Yeah,
Auburn's defense not very good. He struggled.
I do think that at home, Vandy's going to be able to do enough, though. They've been great at home all season. Obviously, beat Alabama, almost beat Texas. So I think they can take care of South Carolina. I think Eli Stowers is going to have a good game. I don't think South Carolina has a guy that can really match up on him very well. So give me the Commodores.
Yeah, I think if this game's in South Carolina, I'm very, 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 very much leaning towards South Carolina. I still lean towards South Carolina. Oh, I want to go South Carolina, but I'm going South Carolina. I'm doing it. I've said it week in, week out. This comes to quarterback. Lenore Sellers is healthy, very healthy. Looked very good against Texas A&M. Diego Pavia didn't look that great against Auburn. He had some spectacular plays rolling out of the pocket and making some throws downfield. This game is really a coin flip for me, a toss up. Especially with it being in Nashville. The fans are going to show up at this point. But just give me – this game's going to come down to turnovers and sacks.
Yeah.
Whatever team has more turnovers and sacks wins. I think they forced Diego Pavia into making mistakes that he hasn't made this year. So give me South Carolina.
I don't hate it, but I'm sticking with the Commodores. And that is it for our picks segment this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously, enjoy your weekend of college football. Again, if you missed any of the breakdown stuff from earlier this week on our 4 Usual Sports, go check that out. But enjoy your weekend of college football, and we will see you guys next Tuesday.